Motivate,
Motivate, a motivate, a motivate,
motivate,
motivate, a
motivate,
motivate, motivate. Get money.
motivate,
Let's go. Let's go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Too many times I swallow my pride. I'm dying inside. I'm trying to hide. I'm feeling alive. I'm feeling it. Hey, I'm feeling it. Hey, hey, I'm feeling it. Hey, hey, I'm feeling it. Get money. Yes, yes, yes. We are back. We are live. It is your boy, the incomparable Mr. PardonMyRude himself. And this is the 15th episode. Oh, man, 15 of them things of the Encompass podcast. I'm glad to have you here today. I am glad to be with you on this episode. I just want to tell y'all, man, I need y'all to pray for me, man. I'm going through it emotionally right now. Like, y'all don't understand. Okay, so hear me out. First of all, my son started the 8th grade on last week. And for the first time in a long time, I only had one child attending public school on the first day of school. Y'all might be like, oh, what? That's a lot for me. And not only is this his 8th grade year, my guy is also playing football for his middle school team. He is a soccer guy. He loves soccer, and he has not played football, almost 7 years now. So I'm very hyped and excited for him. I try to be one of those parents where I do not project and push onto my child what I want them to do from a sports perspective. So, I let him make his own decisions. And recently, from school and hanging out with his friends, they occasionally play football just from a we're outside standpoint. And he came up and was like, hey, Dad, I think I'm interested in playing football. And it just so happened the coach had said something to my wife, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So football's on the agenda this year, and he started football practice and, starting school, and it's very exciting. We are ultra competitive. It's insane how competitive we are. And so this is going to be very, very interesting time for us. I'll make sure I keep y'all updated on how that's going. I think his first game is on August 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Now, my emotions are also all over the place because my oldest child, my big baby, that's still costing me a bunch of money and probably will forever cost me a bunch of money in life. But she's about to, it's so hard to say this. She's about to be going to college, y'all. When this episode drops, we will be a week away. We'll be a week away from her moving into her dorm. And I have so many mixed emotions, man. Like I'm excited, but I'm kind of sad, but I'm proud, but I'm indifferent. And so, I told you, I'm all over the place, and I'm going through it. Life, how I've known it for the past, I'll say 18 years, but I don't want to say 18 years. 13 and a half years in the combination of both of my children, being in the same space is about to change. So come next week, it'll be something completely new. It'll be new, but it'll also be something completely new for me in my house and the dynamic of life. And I don't want to be selfish, but I'm in a selfish space right now. because my baby's grown up. I'm not saying growing up, she's grown up. So yeah. But before we jump into Encompass News, I just want to say, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for the continued support. I want to say thank you for being here. I want to say thank you for every listen. Shout out to Charlotte. Charlotte is my number one city over the life of this podcast, with Atlanta being very close behind it. Fayetteville 26, and you got to step it up. I need y'all higher on the list, but that's hometown. So, but either way, we're all the Encompass community. So I love you. I appreciate you for your listens, for your suggestions, for your feedback, for all the support. I truly appreciate it. And I said I was going to be on top of this, and I'm going to do better. Don't forget to like, follow, and share the podcast with your community. We are on Instagram and Twitter, nCompassPod, in capital COMPASS, add the D, POD, on Instagram and Twitter. And I think TikTok is going to come soon. I told you last week there's going to be some things that I'm going to try to start doing to enhance this experience. So yeah. Do I want to let this cat out the bag yet? No, not yet. I'm gonna hold this until I have the things in hand, and then I'm gonna shout out a special someone who has helped me move to another. I'm not gonna say instance, but another realm that I want to do with the podcast and involvement, engagement with the podcast. So let's move forward, and in Encompass News, I want to start with the jobs report that came out and stating that only 73,000 jobs have been created during the month of July, and unemployment is up just a tick over 4%. So, with this, the July numbers coming in lower than expected at 73,000. If I'm not mistaken, they were estimated like 110,000, somewhere in the 110s. But this is a big difference in what came in versus what was suspected to be reported. But the big boom is that the May and June numbers were revised to be 258,000 less jobs than initially reported. Now, let me say that again, and I'm going to repeat this so that you understand what I'm saying. 258,000 less jobs. Now, listen, I don't know if y'all remember. Well, you should remember. It was just last week. I told you on last week's pod that I had read a report that was saying that there was a distortion in the job numbers because the jobs that were created were not from a sector that truly impacts the economy. So I'm not going to say I told you so, but if you listen to the pod, your boy kind of hit that one. But anyway, so not looking for vindication, because I'm in those I guess unemployment numbers, but without saying I told you so, those who know me, I have an interesting saying that I am right 99.975% of the time, with the margin of error to be incorrect. It happens, but not often. But these reports really cause Trump to be butthurt and be in his feelings. And he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the organization that presents the job numbers. So always remember, people, men lie, women lie, and numbers lie too when played with properly. So yeah, Jay-Z lied to y'all when he said numbers don't lie. Yes, they do. All right. In other Encompass news, Texas is in a political war right now. This is the best way to describe it. The Republicans in Texas, at the behest of Donald Trump, is in some funny business with the gerrymandering their congressional districts. Now, Texas is always in the mix in regards to lawsuits and different things that they have going on with their voting districts. So what they're trying to do now is to squeeze out a few more representatives to send to Congress to sway things in the way of the Republicans. Honestly, I believe they fear what is coming in 2026 with the not so wonderful job numbers, economy being what it is, the Epstein issues. And so I think they're trying to stack the board. And so with this, the Democrats was trying to find a way to fight or push back against this gerrymandering. And so the governor of Illinois said, hey, we'll welcome you here to Illinois with open arms so that you can break quorum and not be in place when they try to start this process for this gerrymandering. And so this caused a big hubbub, and the governor of Texas, threw his threats around. But what really made this very interesting was that the New York governor has declared that if Texas goes through with this redistricting, that they will redistrict as well, thus causing more Democratic seats, the likelihood of Democratic seats being available, as New York is a blue state. And with this, the number of seats that they can manipulate would essentially wipe out the amount of seats that Texas has manipulated to increase that threshold. So there's a lot of posturing and going on back and forth between Texas, New York, Illinois. I say Illinois, Jesus. I'm judging myself. Illinois and California has not said anything yet, but I don't think Texas wants them to get involved either, because that really could tilt things heavily away from the Republicans. Now, I want to finish up in Compass News, focusing on or putting light back on the situation in Gaza and how terrible it is right now, not just from a war standpoint, but from a humanitarian standpoint. Now, I did not touch on this last week. Quite frankly, this situation makes me upset. The Palestinian people are being starved, and they're suffering unnecessarily. And it's not even a matter of, how can I say this? A matter of, you're punishing people for unjust action. This is just downright a disgusting display of inhumane treatment. And it just shows that Benjamin Netanyahu is a power-tripping prime minister, and the Israeli government is just being nasty. There's no other way to put it. Simply put, it's disgusting. Utterly disgusting. So, outside of thoughts and prayers, I'm gonna hold my tongue, because I really want to say some venomous things in regards to the situation, because women and children are suffering. Well, people are suffering, period. Women and children are suffering, and they're suffering at no fault of their own. Like, how callous and okay, I'm gonna stop, because anyway, that leads me directly into what Trump done did now. And the orange goof has pledged to hold FEMA aid from states that do not openly show support for Israel. Further, backing the nastiness that is going on right now in Israel and their actions, to the point that many other European countries and other countries are starting to recognize Palestine as an established state. There are countries that are willing to push war crime charges against Benjamin Netanyahu. But here we are, Donald Trump, backing up the foolishness and supporting the nastiness that is going on. Simply, what the entire hell, man? The entire hell is going on. Anyway, as we move into other items on what Trump done did now, he is creating an Olympic task force for the 2028 games that are coming to Los Angeles, citing he wants to oversee the 2028 games. And of course, he's going to be the head of the task force. Now, why does he need to be involved? It's beyond me. It's completely beyond me. Like, just go do go play with your, I don't know, just go somewhere. But as I think about it, part of it may be, he wants to be in the mix so that he can benefit from, the bribes and the different gifts that come with the Olympics, and the issue that they've encountered over the past years where, there's been different individuals charged and accused with accepting bribes for Olympic Games. That's my only guess, because outside of that, he's not athletic. He's not, I don't know. Just go sit down, please. Also, well, Trump didn't necessarily do this, but it involves him. The Smithsonian, and I want to say this with some disdain for the initial action, but the Smithsonian is bringing back a plaque showing that Trump had been impeached not once, but twice. And there were reports that came out that they were taking the plaque away, although the plaques of the other three presidents who had been impeached and in jeopardy of being removed from office were still there. Trump's got removed. Well, after public backlash and belly aching about it, they said, okay, we're bringing it back. We were just joking. And it should have never went anywhere in the first place. That is facts. He was impeached. What are we trying to cover up? Although our history books cover up and leave out a lot of factual information and distort the truth. This is one that just more proof of nasty work going on in this country, man. It's very disgusting. To the point, Trump didn't do this, but there was a report coming out that some Caribbean islands are offering passports to American. Well, I don't know if it's just Americans, but offering passports for their countries if you invest in the country and buy a house or land in the excess of like $200,000. And it crossed my mind. I've also thought about going to one of the African nations and establishing dual citizenship, because the muck and mess that's going on here, y'all pray my help. And what's the church saying? You pray my strength in the Lord, please. Because, yeah, man. All right, so we'll shoot him the bad, but I'll give him a bit of, I want to call it good. I'll say decent. In what Trump done did now in the show of decency, he's pushing pharmaceutical companies to lower their drug prices for patience. I don't know why. I don't know why I got stuck there. But he's pushing these companies to lower their drug prices. But it's kind of counterintuitive, being that the big beautiful bill is going to wreck shop on the healthcare industry. So I can't really go to the doctor to be seen and get prescribed medicine, but the medicine will be lower. Like, none of this stuff makes sense. And in true, I am a celebrity and not really a worthwhile president. And then also, I like, reality TV life. Donald Trump is currently in a back and forth with Mr. Leonard, aka Charlemagne the God. Yes. Charlemagne the God and Donald Trump are in a back and forth. Now, Charlemagne went on, what's that woman? Laura Trump's show on Fox News. And while he was on the show, it came up about what was going on. And Charlemagne made mention that he thought that the GOP conservatives were in the process of taking back their party. They're not liking a lot of the MAGA aspect of the GOP. And so he said that they're going to try to get their party back. And then he said a bunch of other things about how things are looking and how the economy is going. And of course, Trump didn't like this. Although Charlemagne didn't say anything nasty or calling names toward Donald Trump, he just provided what he thought was going on. Donald Trump came firing back. And he was talking junk and calling names and calling Charlemagne racist and just, demeaning and bemoaning Charlemagne, to the point that Charlemagne came back on Monday morning and made Donald Trump Donkey of the Day on The Breakfast Club, which is a nationally syndicated morning show. So, no surprise, Donald Trump loves a good reality TV show. He loves the drama, and he's going to continue to be in the drama no matter what. So it doesn't surprise me that he has this back and forth with Charlemagne, because guess what? He has a back and forth with everybody all the time. And So we are approaching one of my favorite parts of the show. It's probably your favorite part of the show as well. And that is our top episode. Oh, excuse me, not top episode. It is our top segment. Ooh, today is a struggle. What is wrong with me, y'all? Can you tell me? Help me, please. Help me, please. Anyway, top segment. Let's go. Let's go. La la. La la. La la. On top of the world. Ha. Ha ha ha. La la. We on top of the world, baby. On top of the world. Yes. This is our top segment, y'all. I really get excited about the top segment for a couple of reasons. I've really put in work for these top segments. I don't try to come off the top of my head and just give you feelings. This is how I feel. I've really put in work. I dig, I study, I research, because when I take it so serious. And so with this top segment, we're going to address something that many of us struggle with. Now, I'll tell y'all what it is in a minute, although I don't feel like doing it right now. And let's wait. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll do it now since I'm up against the clock and, it's, the clock is pushing. So I guess I guess I'll do it. I don't know if I should though. Should I? All right, let's do it. Okay. It's the last minute. I gotta, get done. I don't know if you figured it out yet, but I'm dragging my feet because we're going to talk about procrastination today. Yeah, procrastination. Our good old friend, procrastination. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and interestingly enough, the biblical. So let's start off and get our definition. Procrastination is the act of unnecessarily delaying or postponing something despite knowing that there could be negative consequences for doing so. All right, we got that? The act of unnecessarily delaying or postponing something despite knowing that there could be negative consequences for doing so. Now, I would like to start on the biblical side of this. I've mentioned before, I was brought up and raised in the church. It plays a strong part of my life. Am I a saint? God, no. Absolutely not. However, I stand strong in my faith. And with that, I am deeply rooted in my faith. So I'm going to start with in the Bible with this topic. And honestly, that's where my inspiration came from for this week's top segment. I want to give one of my guys from back home, D Briggs, salute to you, brother. I appreciate you. He posted on his Instagram story a reel or something from a gentleman who was speaking on how God views procrastination and how it will impact us spiritually and naturally. And that thing kind of reached out and grabbed me and really talked to me because I wasn't sure what I was going to make this top segment about this week. But when I heard that, I was so drawn to it that I could not resist. So the verse that he mentioned was Proverbs 20:4, which states, "The sluggard does not plow in the autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing." Now, this spoke to me on so many levels. Because initially it said that we must operate in the proper time, in the proper place to reap the harvest in its due season. So that spoke to me because where I'm at right now in my life, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of uncertainty. So my plowing is the work that I'm going to put in to the plans that I have, and for them to grow, for them to manifest and me receive the harvest from them, I got work to do. It's not going to just fall in my lap. Now, secondly, it reminded me not to delay on the instructions, Jesus, not to delay on the instructions because it will cause destruction, but it reminded me not to delay on the instructions that have been set before me if I want to reap the reward. There's instructions that God has given. If you want to reap the reward, you must adhere to them and not delay. And that's many different aspects. That's not just the ultimate reward, but to receive the benefit. When something is given to you, when you hear that voice, you must follow those instructions. Now, many times we get the message on things and we know we should do or handle these things and we drag our feet. And for whatever reason, we drag and drag. And then later on, we have the sourpuss face because things are not going how we want them to go. But had we listened to things when it was given to us, they would be better. And people often say hindsight is 20/20. But I'm not the biggest fan of that. I've altered it just a bit And I say hindsight is only 2020 when applying corrective lenses. Because that's what it is. When you're looking at hindsight, you've corrected your view to be able to see it clearly. Because if you was operating off of initial viewing, it still would be a distorted view. I wear glasses and contacts, and without corrective lenses, my vision is not the clearest. I have an astigmatism. My optometrist said my eyes are shaped like Hey Arnold's head. At first, I was felt a little disrespected, but I got the imagery of what she was saying, so I let it slide. That's what hindsight is for life. Corrective lenses so you can see it clearly had you done what you were supposed to do or instructed to do initially. Now, there's another verse that I came across in my preparation of this topic, and that was Proverbs 12:24, which states, "The hand of the diligent will rule, but the slothful will be put to forced labor." And if you just take these things for literal context, that says a lot in itself right there. But I like to break it down and apply it to a broad spectrum of life, because you have to understand, and I'll give you a brief Bible study point that I learned many years ago growing up in church. When reading the Bible, you have to understand who the word was being said to at the time, the context of what was going on, and the environment. Because too many times people will pluck what they want from the Bible to strengthen their argument instead of taking the scripture before it and the scripture after it to get the full context. But I digress. When I read this Proverbs 12:24, I immediately heard my grandmother's voice. And there's a saying that she has said to me since I was a young tyke that drives my life. The only place you find success before work is in the dictionary. And that's what this says to me. You want to rule, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a king or a dictator, but if you want to rule in an aspect of life, you got to be diligent in work. If you're not, you're just going to be a part of the fray. Understanding that the word diligence refers to someone who is persistent, hardworking, and attentive in their work or task. While someone who is seen as slothful, and that's a mouthful. It's not June, pause. While someone who is slothful refers to an individual who is idle, who is lazy, and fails to exert I can't talk today, y'all. Fails to exert effort. So that's basically stating that there are consequences for inaction. Yes, we know there's consequences. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But there's also consequences for inaction. So these verses essentially are telling you, as the kids say nowadays, get on your Zoom, stop playing around, and be about the action. Now, I've given you the biblical perspective and what really set the fire for this topic. Now I want to break it down to the practical nature and implementation in everyday life that caused this to grow into an even larger fire. What procrastination is and or looks like is where we need to begin in our journey for self-improvement. Initially, I want you to say that when we delay tasks, Initially, I want to say that when we delay tasks, we have ample time to complete it. That's our mindset. And as you continue to go on, I got time. And then it pushes you up against the clock. And when it's time to get that task done, the first thought you have is, oh man, I could have done this, but I got to get it done now. Okay, time to get to it. Prime example, And I tell you all the time, I'm not preaching to y'all. I'm preaching to us because I'm right beside you. In school, particularly even in high school, but very much so in college, waiting to the very end or last moment to complete a school assignment. You've had 3 weeks to do this assignment. You've had a month to do this assignment, to do this paper, but you wait until 7:53 to do your research and type your paper for an assignment that's due at midnight. Again, I'm not judging you. Been there, done that. Probably deserve the t-shirt, the hat, and the book bag. You do all this, you go and you knock it out the park, and you go to submit it at 11:58, and you have an issue. Now you're trying to scramble and think of an excuse or a reason, emailing your professor asking for grace when you had ample time to get this done. You could have wrote a rough draft, had them review it, get it back to you, did a new paper, and had it all in and been chilling. But no, we waited till the last minute. The problem with that is we had done it before. It was successful, so we felt like we could do it again. That's a bad choice of action. Now, with this, procrastination can make you feel like, being successful after procrastinating can make you feel like, oh, I can do this anytime. But I really want people to understand what breeds in this procrastination in us. This procrastination can be a sign of self-defeating behavior. Again, shout out to my therapist professional friends. This is in their lane here. But essentially, this boils down to where short-term relief is prioritized over long-term goals or consequences. This can be seen as a defense mechanism to things such as fear, anxiety, poor emotional regulation, poor time management skills, a lack of motivation, and even the thought of perfectionism. Now, in breaking these down, I think we understand what fear and anxiety is. But this fear and anxiety really impacts you because you have poor emotional regulation. And then you allow those other emotions to dictate how you are progressing and or not progressing with your assignment or your task. Now, honestly, sometimes we just don't have the motivation to attack a task. Simple as that. Again, been there, done that. I know I got to get it done. I know I've done it. I've been in a situation where I've done an assignment and turned it in early, and it felt amazing. The amount of stress that I was able to avoid knowing my assignment was complete and turned in, and that clock was ticking and I was done, felt amazing. But for some reason, I always seemed to put myself in a tough situation. And a lot of times I just didn't have the motivation to attack a task. And this makes you feel as though sometimes it's pointless. I'll get to it. Again, that goes back to that, getting a couple of wins, allowing it to dictate. Now, let's be honest. Part of this is poor time management as well. Because poor time management can trick you into believing that, I can get it done. But truly, are you getting it done? Now, I did find out that sometimes poor time management isn't truly just a time management issue, but it's more of a psychological thing. And it's something that you can, with the proper work, you can get fixed. Now, the area that was very interesting to me in this realm was the notion of perfectionism being a hindrance and a contributing factor to procrastination. Because to me, when I hear the word perfectionism, you are working and making sure that this thing is pristine and just right. But as I read and dug into this, it showed me that sometimes people feel as though they will not meet a desired or an established standard, and this causes them to avoid approaching and tackling a task altogether. And that was very profound to me, because as I read through it, I could see how that it caused you to procrastinate and delay what you're trying to do. So with all these things, they can hinder you in many ways. They can hinder you, and I say tasks and assignments, but that's just for a generalization term. These things can hinder you on your job and your work performance, in school, in life, in relationships, with friends. I know people who are labeled the late person, and that's a form of procrastination. And these things also can have a negative impact on your mental health. Again, I just spoke on how the stress of, I got to get this done. Oh my God, I'm up against the clock. All right, get this assignment done. The stress is crazy. But one thing that I do want to bust in regards to the notion of procrastination is that about what procrastination means this person has a lack of ambition. That is not the case. And quite honestly, that's such a broad brush and does not give an accurate depiction of the proper portrait of an individual. You can know for yourself, and even me, in matters that I've procrastinated, that does not indicate my level of ambition. I'm one of the most ambitious and positive thinking individuals who's going to go get it that you will meet. But sometimes I just drag my feet, and I have to do a better job of it. So in our self-analysis for improvement, identifying our root cause for procrastination is vital. Why are you delaying what you need to do, knowing you need to get it done? But don't shame yourself. No matter what it is, understand what you're doing, what's causing it, and now let's be ready to attack it, but don't put yourself in a hole over it. Now, this is where we reframe our mind and we properly set our focus on improvement, because we've identified our problem. And our problem is not causing us to be in a tough space, but we're ready to attack it and improve. Now, we're going to make sure that we are developing better time management skills to work on improving efficiency in our work. And in some ways you can do that is you're planning out your task. No matter what it is, set a plan, especially if you feel it may be daunting. Prioritize those tasks in order of most important, least important, easiest to complete, hardest to complete. And then organize it. Well, I would say plan, organize, and then prioritize. And once you've done that, you can attack them and knock them out. And remember, this is not a track meet. It's not a track meet on life. So with it not being a track meet, that means we all are not at the same starting line. We do not all line up together and wait for on your mark, get set, and the firing gun. We have different starting points. So wherever your starting point is where you need to attack it and understand how you need to plan, organize, and prioritize for improvement on yourself. Nobody has a picture perfect beginning, and it doesn't have to be picture perfect. Thinking about amazing portraits that did not start off very beautiful or picturesque. I think about my man Bob Ross and his show that was on PBS. And you could look it up on YouTube. But in the beginning of his paintings, you're sitting there, and after you've watched a few and you know what he's doing, you try to guess what the picture is going to be. A lot of times, I was dead wrong, completely off, because there is no distinct direction that I can see, but he knows his plan. He's worked his plan. So I say this to say, don't worry about what people think your direction is. Don't worry about what people think your picture is going to play out to be. As you know your plan and your direction, you work on it, you'll create your masterpiece. And once you're done, they can sit back and marvel at it, and you're happy with your work. Now, another form of reframing that needs to take place is that you need to appreciate momentum over motivation. And I told you earlier, sometimes you just lack motivation. I just don't have it. So that's where you have to break things up. And because if you just wait for inspiration, it's just going to further give you delay. They say writer's block is an example of that, where you're sitting here and you're trying to get it, and you just have no inspiration, no motivation. But just write a little, just something. And then it'll get going, because progress isn't instant, it's gradual. And you don't need permission to have gradual progress. Just do it. You don't have to wait to get affirmation to progress. It doesn't have to be one big fail swoop. Just get it how you get it. And as you make progress, set yourself up for success and break down those tasks again. Organize and prioritize until it builds you up to completing your goal. You see it when they're chopping a tree down. Generally, in using the axe, they can't chop a tree down in one fell swoop. Piece by piece to break it down. Set goals for yourself on an incremental progression and stick to your script. Don't deviate. And as you're doing this, take joy in your process. Let that be your fuel for success. You don't have to just wait until you're done to be happy and feel accomplished. Those steps. When your baby or when a baby is first starting to walk and a parent has them, they're cheering them if it's one step or if it's 15 consecutive steps. That's what this is. Cheer your incremental steps. No different than weight loss. You're not going to lose 30 pounds after one workout. Take your incremental victories. And in saying all this, we mustn't, I don't know what is wrong with me this episode where I cannot talk. Okay, what I'm saying is, as always, and the ultimate goal for this podcast, starting since episode 2, make sure you stay accountable. You're accountable to yourself, but if you have to, get a support system so that you can maintain accountability and set up those systems to help you be successful. You don't have to do this together, man. I mean, you don't have to do this apart. You can do this together. Collective goal setting isn't out of the question, and you don't have to be trying to obtain like the same goals. Me and my friends, we have different goals, but we have a collective goal setting mind that we're going to accomplish our goals, and we cheer each other's on in our individual journeys, looking for simultaneous success. So find someone. If you don't have your community, find someone that is endearing to you, who you feel is encouraging and motivating, so that you can set that collective goal setting. This is going to help you shift a fear-driven or intimidating accountability moments, because sometimes being accountable can be very intimidating. If you're not in the right headspace, if you're not strong enough, it can be very intimidating. Now, I also want to point out, you may also need to seek professional assistance to help you push across the finish line. Again, shout out to my professional therapist friends. We have different methods and different ways of getting to the same goal that we want to get to. So if you need to seek professional assistance, by all means do so. I want you to remember this, and speaking on procrastination as we leave and conclude this episode, you're not lazy. You're just stuck. However, if you have been lazy, this is your call to action. Let's do better and make yourself better. Finish what you start. Simple as that. So, as always, in our closing, may the Lord watch between me and thee. And remember, if nobody loves you, Jesus loves you, and Tupac does too. Be blessed.